Charge your disruptors and unsheath your katanas as we warp into... Fuck off. Don't laugh halfway through it.
Yeah, you can't. That's very rude, Ruben.
No, it's fine. It was stupid. It's meant to be stupid.
Do it again, though. I loved it. I was laughing because it was amazing. Do it again.
Charge your disruptors and unsheath your katanas as we warp into another Check for Traps review of Episode 4 of Star Trek Picard, Chronotons. I'm Alec, and as always, joining me are...
Aaron.
And Ruben.
More Star Trek stuff.
Absolute candor.
Yes, is that the name? Is it Absolute Candor? I forgot to look it up.
The name of the episode is Absolute Candor.
It is indeed Absolute Candor.
I also forgot to look something else up, which made me look like an asshole. But we'll find out in a minute.
If the episode was terrible, I was going to go for Absolute Blander as a title. But sadly, I don't think I can really give it that.
Agreed. Yeah, we had so many puns, didn't we, lined up for the title of this video if the episode was terrible, but unfortunately it was all right.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I was disappointed to be surprised.
I was very happy. I was very happy that it was a good episode. And I think it was largely a good episode.
Yeah. It opens with another flashback, which I think may be a theme of this series, is that each episode we get a flashback to another part of the destruction of Romulus and the destruction of Mars, etc. And we're on a planet which I don't think we've seen before. We may have, but I don't remember it. A Vashti in the Beta Quadrant. It's an arid, deserty planet with lots of Romulans doing agrarian stuff and marketplace
Arabic music
and things.
playing in the background constantly. Well, that was really really interesting. I wonder who's generating that music.
I liked the Romulans and the old style haircuts.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh yeah, they are Romulans. Like it is the haircuts that makes them look different. And then
they seem to be a lot less ridgy than before, though.
They must be southern.
I missed the ridges.
Yeah, a Aladdin style boy is running around stealing space fruit, and I think he gets called Sister Boy, which is problematic. I think that guy's cancelled.
Yeah, definitely cancelled.
Breaking down those gender roles.
Yeah. And he runs off, and he tells the other guy to bite him, which I'm not sure would that an insult translate to Romulan, but yeah, sure. Bite me.
Or maybe it was the Romulan equivalent of like, get off me now, you prick.
Get off me, suck my ridges.
Yeah.
Eat my tips. We have a little character. Picard suddenly appears, not in uniform. He teleports down, but dressed, like the man from Del Monte, to assess his Romulans in a sort of safari suit with a Panama hat.
Yeah, he did look like he owned a plantation of some kind.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. He's there. They all gather around him like he's Christ, and he's going, no, don't worry, Starfleet will help you. Me and Starfleet and the Federation, we're here to help. Nothing will go wrong, which will definitely never come back again.
There's some foreshadowing there.
And we see it. I don't remember a Romulan monastery of warrior nuns being mentioned before, but maybe there was.
Me neither. I'm pretty sure I was trying to recall that, but then maybe they were keeping it a secret.
Yeah, the Picard visits this monastery of nuns who are looking after the Aladdin boy. They are the Kawat Milat.
Yeah, sure.
They are Romulan warrior nuns, and they've been helping with the evacuation. Picard mentions the Way of Absolute Candor, which we will later on learn is their kind of creed.
Yep.
I equated it to the Prime Directive.
Because it's like a counteract. It's a counterculture towards Romulan secrecy, right? So it's to address the massive secrecy problem in Romulan society by being incredibly upfront.
Yeah, honestly, it's the best policy for warrior nuns, katanas and whatnot.
Yeah, so they're all assholes, and they're just rude.
Yeah,
Picard's having a chat with them, and he's brought the little boy a gift of the Three Musketeers book. Mm-hmm. Hopefully that...
If there wasn't enough of a hint that he's going to become some kind of ninja, they give him a book about sword fighting.
Yeah. Then show him fencing with Picard.
Yeah.
Which would, at this time period, be a bit like someone providing us with, like, oh, it's your birthday, here's a scroll, like, here's a tapestry.
Yeah.
Read the tale of Grognar the Red.
Yeah, here's like Romance the Three Kingdoms on original papyrus or something.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thanks for that.
Thanks, guy. I don't really know.
They did have that line where the give it away. The little Aladdin boy says to Picard, says, "Oh, you promised me," and the nun's like, "Ah, a promise is a prison. Do not make yourself another's jailer." Which I guess they kind of want to make them sound like nuns.
It's a poor philosophy for any civilized society.
Oh, yeah, I feel like it's not really the backbone of a strong civilization there, is it?
Immediately undercut by Picard having said he's promised to bring us some dank nugs.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, like, here's some touch to light, woman, now.
So, actually, I will take that. So we learn that the Aladdin boy is called Elnor. He is a waif-type stray who was taken in by the nuns, but they
he's
can't
a D&D character.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And they can't...
He's the character that is made by the edgy person in your party that wishes they could be a samurai.
Yeah, and they can't keep him because he has a cock and balls. I'm assuming Romulans have cocks and balls. We don't know, but we can assume. But it's this warrior race, this warrior nun thing is ladies only. It's ladies' night every night with a Kawat Malat.
Cocktails are buy one get one free.
Cocktails are buy one get one free. Picard gives him some fencing lessons, and while reading him the book, but halfway through he gets interrupted by Raffi. He puts his hand up to his ear, which I...
Yeah, was he talking to like a wristwatch or something? I wasn't sure.
Because he didn't have his badge on, unless he was holding the badge, which implies that she's like whispering into his ear. But whatever, that's fine. The Mars attacks has happened, so he's got to nip off pretty sharpish. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be back. I'll come back to help. This won't mark a changing point in my character. Never fear."
I was going to say, Aaron pointed something out there which I thought was quite interesting, is that he walks away as he's being teleported, as if he's like running off.
He's walking downstairs.
Yeah.
I said, didn't this make it harder for the teleporter guy?
Wouldn't it be really disorientating as well when you arrived at your destination, you're midway through a step and you've got some momentum, but now you're not going downstairs, so like that would be really difficult to stay upright.
Maybe it's a flex.
It's like when you wake up from a dream when you're falling and you're suddenly not falling.
Yeah,
maybe it's deliberate.
It did feel like a bit of social decorum, like he wanted to, like you walk away from a conversation.
Leave the conversation,
he didn't want to just stand there. Maybe he didn't know how long it was going to be, and he was like, "Oh, this is going to be awkward if I stay there and don't get teleported."
There,
Hello, hi, just being beamed away. Yeah,
I'm sure they'll beam me up anytime now, probably. Good luck with the evacuation.
So, how's being a nun? Oh, he's gone. Thank God for that.
God.
It's like, while I wait, would you mind popping the kettle on? I'd love an Earl Grey. And then they pop the kettle on, and then he gets beamed away. And he's like, well, I've boiled the kettle now.
Just as he takes the cup, he gets teleported away, and the cup just
drops the cup on the ground.
For fuck's sake.
He's like, oh dear, I actually really need the toilet. This is going to be very problematic.
Oh dear. Don't beam me up, I'm weeing.
He gets beamed up just with his trousers around his ankles and a stream of piss mid-air.
Well, the teleporter filters can take away weapons, so can they extract piss?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Chief O'Brien's shoes get a little splash.
If it makes the exact copy of you in a different location, is that copy got the same shit?
Yeah, just the piss go with it.
Yeah, can they beam it out of you mid-transit?
That'd be really useful.
Fire it into space.
If you've got like really bad gut rot, you can just take a teleporter trip and be like, oh, extract one.
I would be permanently beaming out all of my poo. That would just be the dream. Anyway, speaking of space and beaming things out, we finally go to space. We're aboard the ship in space. Yeah. It's happened.
I had a thing about the opening credits. Now, I don't know. I admittedly haven't paid that much attention to the credits in the other episodes.
Was it Breaks?
No, it was Jerry Ryan.
Yep.
Did they have her in all the other opening credits?
No. That's how I knew that. That actually annoyingly spoiled the end for me.
The reveal, yeah.
I was like, that's irritating, but okay. Like, I guess at this point, she's that big enough of a person that you see him do it. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's a shame that we now know that she's going to appear.
Yeah, no, I did think that was a bit weird.
I'm sure they're not the first TV show to make that faux pas, but it's a bit irritating. I agree.
No, the one that I remember most recently was the BBC just put on their website that John Sims was coming back to play a very famous character in Doctor Who, and it was a real shame. Well, luckily I didn't know about it, but there's no indication he's going to do it, and this character is known for doing disguises. So in like the last episode, this character just suddenly goes, "It's me, John Sim," and just pulls his face off like Mission Impossible. And I was like, ah! But yes, it's the similar thing of people of I don't know, the suits, I guess, spoiling stuff, or the logistics.
It's people trying to generate hype rather than increasing narrative tension.
Yeah, fine. But yes, we're back in the ship. We're in space. I don't think I like this new ship design.
Oh,
It looks like a pirate ship, I think.
Either.
Okay.
I think for a Star Trek ship, I mean, it's just a bit... I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet.
Okay.
Same as I said last time, right? It's very, very Firefly. It's like a little junker that's been like put together.
It looks all right. I'm just not that.
Yeah.
I'm just not that. I don't think it's that interesting.
I mean, the exterior makes it look like it's like a salvaged pirate ship or something. It's got like red and white stripes on it.
Yeah, and about 14 engines all hanging off it. But they're on the ship, and Captain... Is he Captain? Whatever. Chris Rios is sat in his chair reading a miserable book, and Agnes climbs up the ladder and sort of needles him a bit because she's bored because space is boring.
Yeah, I found that quite frustrating because like she obviously expressed an interest in going to space last time because she's never been in space before, and she's literally flying at warp speed. The stars flying around her, and that must be, I would find, maybe it's because I'm a bit of a fucking dweeb, but I would find that like an incredible sight. And she's like, "Oh, this is really dull."
I think she's more excited to go to space to go and look at things, and the actual space element is proving to be quite dull.
Yes, it's like taking the car somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah. Technically, we should be amazed. I'm traveling through across my road at 80 miles an hour, but because I'm not a dog, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think
excite me.
that technology has always been part of her life, and so while she's interested in seeing different planets, she's not interested in like the space commute to that location.
Yeah.
I also thought the book he was reading was really funny because, like you said, it is just sort of like a go-to smart person book.
It's about being dark and tortured because he's dark and tortured.
Which it's just existential philosophy from like I can't remember, a Spanish or Mediterranean guy in general.
Which I think he describes it as how the consciousness of death stays with humans and shapes us or something. Yeah. It's like, okay, like the unbearable consciousness of your own death.
Fuck it, yeah.
I guess he didn't fancy just like reading The Guardian or something. Yeah,
I like the Klingon opera thing.
Posh boy book.
That was good.
It's mentioned that he only has Klingon opera, which I hope has a funny explanation. Or Worf maybe.
he's in like the boot.
Worf's in one of the boxes that he's got stuffed against the walls.
Each of the boxes has a different TNG cast member in it.
Yeah. They pop out like Jack in the Boxes. Picard, you old bastard. It's me, Barclay.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man, Reginald Barclay.
Don't worry, in the 14 years I've got some therapy. We learn that Agnes has a thing about her dad, which I don't know if was meant to be sad or not.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
It felt sad, but I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I mean, it was just her dialogue was being... I liked what she was, like, her dialogue mainly, but it was being delivered a bit strangely. I wasn't sure where... Because it was, like, one moment it was, like, quite jovial, and then, like you said, it was sort of, like, perhaps dark.
Yeah. They're interrupted, to Agnes's relief, by Raffi, who's in angry mode, and is stropping in with her hair in full attack plumage. She's aggy because the ship is being diverted to Vashti instead of Freehold. A lot of people have started referring to the ship as the USS Sheer Fucking Hubris, so that's what I've started referring to it as well.
Okay.
Because she goes, I need a ship, and the Admiral goes, the Sheer Fucking Hubris, and now he's aboard the USS Sheer Fucking Hubris.
Oh, I dig it.
A little line I liked where it says that Picard can't even take a guilt trip without using a spaceship.
That was funny.
There you go, because he just loves space.
I thought Picard was really on point in these first few scenes as well. Like, he was being very sassy, he was making good faces. He was really rocking it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the actress playing Raffi is good when she's not just having to do Angry Addict as well.
Mm-hmm.
She did Angry Addict quite well.
I quite like her as tech person. I think she should do that more.
I can see her as like kind of vaguely sort of, not grumpy, but fed up, sort of, I guess.
Skilled
abrupt.
IT technician who doesn't want to have to deal with your shit. I think she's good at that, yeah.
Yeah, like when she's angry, she's not angry in a productive way. She's not angry in like a, what are you doing? We need to get this done. Let's act now. It's an angry just she's like, I'm sick of your attitude. Like, that's not really constructive anger.
We're back on the Chateau Picard set. Yeah. Suddenly, with Picard looking out a window, and it's very
reuse those sets.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice set.
Yeah.
And the lighting alone must have taken ages to set up. And
don't want to waste it, I guess.
We come to learn that it's a holo projection because there's another hologram, the emergency hospitality hologram.
Love it.
Has recreated Picard's study to exact enough that Daj's necklace is still there. because Zabar sent him the holoscans, which must have been a very weird message for Zabar to receive.
Definitely.
Oh, Picard's on a dangerous life or death mission. Can you take some selfies with the study so we can have the hologram remake it? After saying, because he said it doesn't feel like home, but clearly it does, because he wouldn't recreate it otherwise.
Yeah.
Whatever. Something about the emergency hospitality hologram. He was holding like a leather binder with paper in it, which seems like a bit of a
hollow
strange...
paper.
Yeah, I guess it's to give him the impression of being a planner and organised.
Yeah, is it like prop paper, which is just there to present the image that this person is the foreman,
which
I guess
makes sense from our perspective because we're used to seeing planners holding little binders with
that's not something
files
that
in.
Yeah,
but for someone,
but like the emergency medical hologram doesn't have a stethoscope down his neck and a big white lab coat.
It doesn't turn up with like that big reflective metal dish on a headband.
Yeah, big rubber gloves. It's time for your inspection.
It doesn't turn up in a plague doctor mask. It's really a bit like having your emergency hospitality hologram turning up with like a slate and some chalk. But don't worry, I'll note down all of your qubits, sir.
Yeah. An abacus or something.
Yeah. The navigation hologram's got like pilot's goggles and
a sextant
with a fur-lined bomber jacket.
Don't worry, we'll get you away.
Chocks away.
Chocks away. This doesn't have chocks. I don't know where I am.
I'm not even a tangible life form.
We learn that Chris hates the hospitality hologram for reasons I don't know why.
Yeah.
If
he just hates that guy because it sounds cool in the script.
If you hate the hologram, don't keep him. Delete him.
Deactivate the hologram.
Yeah. Schlock alarm activated.
Yeah, fine.
Re.
And now everyone is in Picard's study.
Yep.
Everyone just.
I like that she asked permission to join the meeting. I thought that was cute. I like that.
And just has a bitch at him about going to Vashti.
Yep.
And was like, this is awful.
Something.
Why are we doing this?
I like the bit where he's like, "Oh, did you drop my name?" And she's like, "Yeah, that didn't help anything."
That's when they get there. But we get a lot more. Chris exposes for a bit. We learn that Vashti's a bit of a shithole, and that the space police, the Fenris Rangers, can't look after it anymore. And there's a warlord called what's his name? Karkantar.
Karkantar.
An old bird of prey. While Picard explains who the Kawat Malat are, that they're sweet-ass ninja fighters who dedicate themselves to causes and really hate the Tal Shiar.
That was
everyone.
The funniest. Yeah, I think so. I mean, how do they know about them? They're so fucking secret. Oh wait, no, they're the junior level secret. They're not the secret.
Yeah, the Zart Vash are the really
That's the Zart Vash,
ones.
of course.
Yeah,
the Zart Vashti.
I just don't see the Tal Shiar allowing
another organization dedicated against them to exist. Yeah, agreed. I was like, that's pretty weird.
Because the Romulans are never shown to be particularly spiritual.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like
merciful.
It kind of feels like at some point they would have all been sat round making flatbread and then suddenly have been teleported into space.
Yeah, they are a cabal of shadow assassins. Wouldn't you want to assassinate the people who are against the cabal of shadow assassins if you were
a shadow assassin yourself?
Assassin. Yeah.
It seems like a real there's only there's no real peaceful coexistence with that creed.
Yeah, but a bit too democratic for the evil space ninja.
So then if I was the Tal Shiar, and that organization's creed is only allying with lost causes, then I would be like, they're not gonna be any threat at any point.
Yeah, they probably would have exterminated themselves by this point, wouldn't they?
There's a mention of a Romulan rebirth movement, which I guess are like the EDL for Romulans.
I quite like that because great national
Romulus
trauma
first.
probably would have created some sort of Romulan nationalism. I thought that was good.
Picard goes to his fake window and has a chat with Raffi with some real extreme close-ups. Big Raffi face and big Picard face.
All those old man wrinkles in glorious high definition.
Yeah, where he's explaining that he has to go to Vashti and fulfill his promise now because he hasn't done it before, and if he doesn't do it now, he probably won't be able to because he's got the old brain disorder. He doesn't say it in so many words, but he's saying, this is my last chance to make this right, I suppose.
And then she calls him JL a bunch of times.
JL, baby.
There was actually one good JL in this episode, which we'll get to later. It's important to mention the good JLs with the bad JLs. So.
Yeah.
I don't mind the JL thing.
I will explain why there was one good one and why by default that makes the rest bad later on.
Yeah.
There's one thing about that scene actually that did made me question the sanity of the writing, which is they've used the holodeck to create this replica of Picard's study, but the pilot of this ship, the man who lives there every day and is, evidently bored out of his mind, and you see him just sitting around reading, looking really bored all the time. Why doesn't he just have a fucking whale of a time in the holodeck? Why doesn't he do whatever he wants?
Well, maybe
he's literally got a holographic universe. He can do anything.
I think he's reading the book out of choice.
He's not bored, I don't think, is he?
He likes the book.
Yeah, he specifically
forget
likes
the book,
paper
but,
books, which is the weird.
He's often got his feet up, and they're talking about how space is boring, and he's just like sat there reading
She
this book.
finds space boring. He's a captain.
Okay, well,
Yeah, well,
she should be in
his
there.
study as well. His study's like a little prison cell. Oh, sorry, his quarters is like a little prison cell. Why doesn't he?
Well, he's done that deliberately.
He's an austere man.
Yeah, there are more than what
guess
Star
so.
Trek characters in the past have said they don't like the holodeck. Or don't see the point of it. Maybe he's one of them. He doesn't like the hospitality
I'd be one of
hologram.
those lunatics who gets holodeck sickness
Oh,
and just never wants to leave.
You'd be like when Geordie made a girlfriend in it.
Yeah,
We'd
definitely.
I'd be,
never
We'd have
see
to
you.
pry you out
in
of
the-
there. Like,
No,
I'd
put
be
me
in
back
Jonathan
in.
Frakes' jazz bar speaking to Minuet at all times.
You'd be in that Korean waifu game.
oh,
playing it.
You're on to me.
Yeah, it would just be playing itself when you're just sat there going, good, good. In a big throne.
Admiral Lambert, where is Commodore Fuchs?
He's in the waifu game.
My God, again.
Again. We can't get him out. He's sealed the doors. He's removed the doors.
Did he respond to my court martial?
He's on the gacha deck again.
You're playing like the grind games, but in real, like with you as one of the fighters.
You see Commodore Fuchs' flagship, and it's just a holodeck with 2 engines tied to it. Commodore Fuchs, can we come aboard? No, I'm not dressed.
Why do we keep him in Starfleet? Oh, for tax
He
reasons.
doesn't even have any clothes on the ship.
yeah, he's just got a dressing gown.
Just empty cider cans all over the floor.
Yeah, a holodeck, 2 engines, and a waste disposal hatch.
Mm.
That's all that's on Ruben's ship.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been detected.
What was that? It's gonna be like Harry Mudd, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Harry
Yeah.
Harcourt.
Harry Mudd's my
Yeah.
idol.
I mean, I thought it was odd that Picard had gone to the holodeck to just recreate his study, because I thought that
Yeah.
was his quarters, and all your your quarters now have a holodeck built in.
Oh,
Well, that makes sense. But then he will just sort of leave.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'll be in my quarters." Like, what's it? What were you doing in here?
yeah. I didn't think about that. That's
Are you
weird.
turning the holodeck into your study to just kind of hang out? Why does this working ship have a holodeck?
Yeah, why not make it like a bar or something then? If they're going to all
Well, I
Social
together.
area. Yeah.
It's very rude.
And
of
yeah, I
Picard.
thought that as well.
Yeah.
Is it's clearly like a this ship has a function. It's a not just like not like the Enterprise where it has thousands of people living on it and they need recreational activities and stuff. It's just a little dinky ship that has a holodeck.
Yeah, I suppose if it's doing like long haul cargo missions, but it's very small
Yeah.
for that. I guess you'd need a holodeck to stop everyone going mad and getting space madness.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
a madness thing because you need like it's like in Ad Astra when they had like the calming chamber. I guess maybe like you might. I think that if and when we hit the stars, we will have to tackle the problem of like
The
in
chill out
submarines.
Yeah.
Put
I guess there's a lot more applications for a holodeck besides recreation as well. There's like simulations
Combat,
and
I guess,
training and yeah.
Pomfar,
Yeah,
Ponfar.
Pomfar extraction rituals.
maybe it makes your insurance cheaper. Less likely to get space madness. So.
You got a
Well,
space.
I think on the ISS today they have to simulate sunrise and sunset, so like the lights dim and
Oh,
undim with the rising of the sun, because otherwise it makes the astronauts go a bit loopy because they lose all semblance of
time.
time.
Yeah.
But they can
I
see the
guess,
sun.
yeah.
It's out the window. So you know when it's
But
rising.
they can all. Their
Constantly.
problem is they can always see the sun.
But yeah,
can't
but they know when it's rising.
Well, no,
They can they can watch it rise
This is making my brain
No,
hurt.
they
because the Earth's
They
the
go
center of
round
the
it so
universe,
fast,
right?
though, they-
So the sun goes round us.
Ah, yeah.
So they
they'd
can
be watching
watch it.
But remember, they orbit the Earth like is it like 300 times in a day? So they're watching it constantly, or is it 50 times or something? It's a lot. They would
I don't
they would be
know.
witnessing it on a really weird level.
Yeah, but they're in the outer
They're
sphere,
much
and the
closer
sun's
to
in
the
a
surface than you
further
think
away
as well.
sphere,
Mm.
and the Earth is the fundament. So as they rotate round the Earth, and the sun
I mean,
rotates round the Earth,
They're quite fortunate as well because they get to see both sides of the Earth. They get to see what's on the underneath.
yeah,
and obviously
exactly, yeah, and they get
We've only experienced the top of the
and they
flat
get to see
side.
past the giant ice wall that stops us going off the edge, which must be
Okay.
fascinating.
Every 90 minutes it orbits the Earth, and obviously in varying different angles. It moves really fast.
That is incredible.
It's My 50 was a bit out because that would be what, every like 30 minutes. That would feel like a
Still,
roller coaster.
Even so, like, science, that's fucking crazy.
Doesn't
Like,
matter.
these people fly around the Earth.
Yep.
Every 90 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
In a little pod.
I can imagine how. Then again, it makes you wonder if you're that disconnected from Earth. If every 90 minutes you're doing that, how much does the lights dimming help? I guess every little helps.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's because they're going around so often that the lights constantly. If they didn't have that, then the sun would just constantly be like getting bright, getting dim, getting bright, getting dim, and it'd be really disorientating.
Oh, maybe.
But yeah.
Anyway,
that's beside the point.
we leave the USS Sea of fucking Hubris, and we're back on the Cube with some Romulan
The
drones
Cube.
or something swooping around menacingly. Couldn't work out if they were big enough to be ships or what they were. And Soj is watching Rhonda the Romulan, Ramda.
Yeah,
Reggie
Rhonda,
giving a little chat about Seb Cheneb before she gets borged.
Yep.
And she's just talking
playing
about
Chinese checkers as well.
Yeah, like, she's going to rise up and destroy everything, all life. Is there the prophecy about how she's going to make those answer the call, which to me sounds like Borg drones, because this Borg cube's been separated from the collective, and you don't introduce special badges that flash green when you're about to get assimilated, unless at some point they're all going to flash green at the same time.
Agreed.
And everyone's going to go, oh my god, and then Borg drones.
Yeah, there'll be a scene where all the lights go out, and then it's complete darkness, and then all the badges will start flashing green.
And then the laser sights will start sweeping down the corridors.
Yeah, exactly. The Borg eyes.
She's going to become some sort of Borg queen, isn't she? I think that's what we're ramping up to.
Well, that's the prophecy. Yeah, she will become Sebastian Cheneb. We're back to the ship. We're back to Picard and his team. They've now reached Vashti, which is surrounded by doom lasers.
It is
a planetary defense system which no one else seems to have.
Yeah, despite the fact they live in abstract poverty, do they spend all their money on planetary defense lasers?
Yeah, maybe they do.
Well, that would stop the random teleportation abductions that should definitely be happening all the time.
Yeah. I guess you could argue that's how Shiara came around it, but yeah, there's no other mention of planetary defences around Earth.
Nope. And that would be really useful.
Yeah. Well, Picard, they're not being let in, basically. The Rommies on the planet aren't interested. And Picard goes, oh, well, maybe you should just tell them that I'm here, to try and big dog his way in. And Ruffy says, we already tried that. They were very much not impressed.
Yeah, Picard pulls that face, which I absolutely love, but he looks like, bloody
Old man Picard
my name
face.
wasn't good enough then.
Old man Picard face, and it's implied they're having to bribe their way in. Though I've never seen them have any cash, so where the cash is coming from?
I mean,
I don't know.
Any cash in this cashless society where people can be bribed?
Well, the
but
Federation
don't
is
have any money.
cashless, but these are Romulans. They aren't cashless.
Also,
that's true. They've got Romulan bucks or something.
It might be resources as well. Like it might not necessarily be money.
And Federation Starfleet officers use cash because they go gambling. Like
they do. They use Latinum.
Yeah, because that's the universal currency, or at least it was, if 14 years ago. So maybe they've just got loads of Latinum.
Yeah, how do they get that Latinum in the first place if they're all volunteers?
Well, they could trade their phasers, which is definitely not violating the Prime Directive.
yeah, right. Sell Starfleet property in the black market.
So the bribe is suggested, and we assume it works because we then cut to Picard beaming down to the planet, which is now a dusty shithole, as opposed to just dusty. Picard tries to introduce himself to the locals, and no one is interested. Everyone's giving him like the cold shoulder. And there's a cafe, it says Romulans only. There's some arm-banded goons lurking menacingly.
Space Nazis, yeah.
There's a nice detail with the social club, where before it had Romulan Social Club written next to the Romulan, and now they've taken it off, and they just have the Romulans only sign in English. So I thought it was cool.
Because Romulans don't need to read that.
Well, that's what I mean. I thought it was a nice idea.
A large Romulan, and the second large Romulan we've seen, taps his titty and announces to somebody that he's seen Picard, which we later find out is like a Romulan WhatsApp. The most secret of all chat groups. And Picard is here to visit the nuns again. He visits the nuns. He says hello to the nuns. And then who comes in but Hot Romulan 2, It's Elnor. He's big and he's beefy.
This
He's got
hot
long flowing hair.
Romulan looks a lot more like an acceptably hot Romulan than Zarek, or whatever he's called, or Narek.
Yeah, he's hot Legolas Romulan rather than weak hipster Romulan.
Agreed.
And
He's the Chad. We should do like a Chad Virgin sort of paint.
Yeah, definitely. He would be the Chad, and Narek would definitely be the fucking Virgin. Even though he spends his entire career in space porking cyborgs.
Slightly
bloody degenerate.
A bit of a weird exchange between Picard and the leader of the Qowat Milat, where she says to Picard, "You got old." And Picard replies, "You didn't," and she goes, "Ha ha ha! This is a place of sanctuary and truth." But 14 years probably isn't that long for a Romulan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about this. We're assuming that Romulans, like Vulcans, live for a really freaking long time, right?
Yeah, I think even Klingons live longer than humans. Like humans are the main ones.
It's a bit.
They're the dogs of the
It's
universe.
a big fantasy trope.
They live a good 10 years, and you're like, "That you did well, kid." And then it dies.
My pet human is ill.
Fondly remembered.
Well, you'll have to put him down. No, I'm fine. No. You'll have to put him down. No, really, I'm okay.
Get the phaser.
It's just a cold. Ah, that's what they all say. I feel cold, and then they die.
My last human had a cold, and then I shot him, and he died.
It's only logical that we put down this human. We're back to the cube. Rhonda the Romulan is under medical stasis or something.
Yes,
she's got bits tied to her head. Soji and Hot Romulan 1, Soft Spock, are mumbling some stuff about, I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. What are they talking about?
Oh, they talk about paradigms. They try and sound smart. It's Akiva Goldman trying to write dialogue that smart people might say.
Yeah. We had nothing to write and nothing to say about the actual content of that scene because nothing happened whatsoever. It was just shite.
Just two moderately attractive people looking at each other and saying words that an idiot might think a smart person might say when talking about ideology. Like, insane.
Yeah, some smouldering. That was it.
They go to a bar? Canteen?
Yeah,
something.
canteen, I think.
Romulan ale, which definitely wouldn't be allowed in the workplace. Over to Romulan ale. It's nice to see the blue drink back. The space drinks.
Yep. Made me much happier to see that than the blue milk in Star Wars. So.
Much happier to see the the Romulan ale. Soj has pretty much clocked that Zarek is Tal Shiar, though he's being
only took
obviously
4
cagey.
episodes.
Yeah, and he's being like, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "Would you say that if you were?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." Yeah, I'm not dumb. And he has access, or could get access, to some Borg files that Soj desperately wants to get her little mitts on, regarding the assimilation of the Romulans and what happened to the cube. But while they're doing that, Narek says, "Right, come on, we're going to go and do a Borg ritual." A brief mention that Soj learnt about Ramda's stuff and the Seb Chenev destroyer myth by watching a Romulan talk show. And it's just kind of weird imagining Romulans having talk shows.
Mad weird.
Yeah, do you reckon there's like an Oprah, but...
Yeah, like a Romulan Grey and
Is it also
Norton.
really secret? Because would they punish someone for keeping secrets on the talk show, or would they be like, that's entirely understandable?
Is the talk show...
The talk show's a ruse to convince people to talk, and if they talk, they're summarily executed.
Because what would it be like? Like Romulan had a second secret family, and everyone's clapping like, "Oh, what a hero! What a he made it, he really made it work."
Well, I suppose it'd be more like
straight into the incinerator.
If Graham Norton brought on someone to promote the latest book, and they're like, "So you've released a book," and then Romulan goes, "Maybe."
Yeah.
Who told you
What's
this?
it to you?
Where have you heard that?
I can neither confirm nor deny this.
While a member of the Tal Shiar sits there with his hand on his disruptor.
Yeah.
So tell me more about how you grew up. I grew up a good Romulan citizen on Romulus. There is nothing else to say. We find the Borg ritual. Oh no, Hot Romulan. He gives away that he's been sort of looking Soji up, as he mentions that she shipped out to various places on a ship. She shipped out on a ship, apparently, which is fun.
Yeah.
He basically saying, "You went here on this ship. I know that. I found that out on the way."
And he's already kind of alluded that he's in the Tal Shiar, even though that was painfully obvious anyway. But
we see the Borg ritual seems to entail going back to the spooky Borg corridor where Lieutenant Rat was previously. Taking off your shoes. Now, I know Romulans must have socks, but seeing Romulan socks is still a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, Romulans have socks, and then you skid down the corridor, because it's a ventilation return to the floor slippy, and you go, woo,
sliding around
clearly
the
this
hardwood
scene.
floor.
I mean, the problem is,
Clearly
I
sucks.
love floor sliding. I do it all across my flat all the time, and I was like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
Doing skids is wicked. Obviously, it's not a Borg ritual. Borg don't do this. We've come to understand that this is not.
Oh, yeah,
something
can
Borg
you
do.
imagine the Borg Queen dictating that ritual?
I am.
Obviously, it was meant as a pun,
Yeah,
but still.
I
it's
am second of 9. I am going to do skids.
6 skids.
We.
Do you think there's a Romulan whose cybernetic enhancement is that he's had extra slidey feet installed?
Takes off her Borg
Like
socks.
wheels. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got wheels so he can do it on the carpet as well.
Yeah. And it's kind of it's shot quite sweetly, and there's a sort of lilty folky fable music to be like,
And
young
they like
love.
hug, they like embrace it, or like brace each other's arms at one point to stabilize. It was
Which-
like
Oh, they
Yeah,
will spin around.
Which is fine because it's like their romance thing. But he's the Tal Shiar who is deliberately handling her to try and get to give information. And it seems
Yeah.
weird to then choose, isn't it sweet? Unless it's meant to go, they're really falling for each other. But
that's what it was meant
he's
to
a
be, but
spy.
it was so poorly done that I didn't
Yeah.
actually think it was because that's what the music was for, and like the grabbing, it was supposed to be them two like developing actual feelings. That's why, later Lieutenant Rat's like, "Oh, don't fall in love again," because she keeps saying that. But it's like
I mean-
I do not feel there is any danger of that happening currently, and that's bad.
but no, because he
It was
immediately
so schlocky, wasn't it?
because they have a little big kissy wissy at the end of the corridor, and he immediately goes back to questioning her about
Yeah.
your
Cheeky little shag
yeah.
in the Borg tunnels.
Your-
By the way, was this you? You committing crimes against the state?
Yeah, it's like your record says you're on this ship, but the passenger list, which he says a public record, which is shocking to Romulans.
That was so funny.
I quite like that. The idea of going, oh my god, these idiots, just tapping away at like Federation Google, just going passenger records, Elliston 22 whatever, and him going, oh my god, it's just here, these idiots.
It's all here.
Yeah, she's not listed as being on the ship, even though her record says she was. She never bought a ticket. And she gets a bit aggy because she says, "Are you have to calling me a liar? You're interrogating me?" And he kind of goes, "Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
am.
guess.
Yeah. And then he gets her back on side by sort of saying, "Look, you can't be too aggy with me because I'm the only one that get you access to these Borg files that you want." And she's like, "Okay, yeah, you do. Fair enough." A strange scene.
Very strange.
I mean, it was quite sweet, but then you remember, oh no, he's a spy. He's working for information. This should be a bit more sinister.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to imply that I think this is largely just due to how poor his character is. I think it's supposed to imply that he actually is liking her, and so that's why it's played a bit more sweetly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think at this
But later on, we find out really how sinister and evil he is, which we'll come to shortly. But
Yeah.
it's a bit odd.
Yeah.
But we're back.
Dynamic.
We're back to Vashti, and Raffi is up on the ship, and she's looking at all the Romulan Twitter or something, and they're all extremely cross that Captain Picard is on the planet, and they're coming to cancel him, sis, and that's the
no.
team. They're coming to cancel Picard, and Agnes says, I think Raffi says he's blowing up on Romulan comms, and Agnes goes, "What, in a good way? Like he's gone viral."
Yeah, I was so there's a TikTok video of him flossing. Everyone's like, "This is sick."
Yeah.
an edit of Picard set to Old Town Road.
Yeah.
He's holding a cat between two pieces of bread. It's gone viral.
But no, it's not good. It's bad, and even worse, a ship has entered the system, and it's Car Kantar in his antique bird of prey, which we can. I'm not sure if he's meant to arrive because Picard's there, or if he's just a prick and he's decided to turn up then.
I think he's just a space prick.
Yeah,
Just a
I-
space
It
prick.
annoys me as well that in that scene that Raffi calls him Car Cantor, but previously he was Car Kantar. So like, how are you pronouncing that?
Yeah,
Get it
it
right.
does seem to happen
Say
a lot
one
in
word.
sci-fi stuff, like Han or Han Solo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Bajor in Deep Space Nine gets about 4 different pronunciations.
One of the many problems with making up words.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
is it
that's true.
Bajor,
I guess
Bajor?
when you're reading it
But
from
you
the
should
script,
you
as
should
an
standardize
actor,
it.
you
But then I
don't
guess
know
people
how it's
say people say bath and bath in terms to the UK
Yeah,
city.
correct.
So.
Correctly and incorrectly.
Well, indeed. But we know that Raffi is wrong anyway because she uses the heathenistic term JL.
JL. Well,
Free?
meanwhile, Picard has been having more time with the Quat Malat. We find out they've been trying to keep the peace with their swords. It's like sort of travelling guards.
Samurai
Fine.
guards, yep,
Yeah.
sure.
Elnor's there. He gives Picard some food. Picard's like, "No, you're right. I'm old. I don't eat anymore," and strops off in a very sexy fashion.
Mm.
I'll have a keema rice and one portion of kawat milat, please.
Yeah. Extra spicy.
And naan bread.
Naan bread and a kawat malat. Picard is embarrassed that Elnor is still there. He's like, I assumed you'd find somewhere for him. Despite in the flashback, he's like, don't worry, I'll find somewhere for him.
Yeah, it's so funny.
And we kind of he has a chat with, I think her name's Zahn, the leader of the Kawat Malat.
Shit.
Where he sort of says, look, yeah, do you know what? I couldn't help some people, so I gave up on helping anyone. And just had a big strop. I guess fair enough. There's a line, I met the perfect become the enemy of the good.
Yeah,
which
I like that.
Which in context, I was like, yeah, sure. And then I was trying to think about what it meant afterwards. I was like, hang on, huh?
Well, I mean, it's poorly worded, but it is a nice sentiment.
Yeah,
in an attempt to be perfect, I stopped being good would be an easier way to mention.
Yeah, because
that makes a lot more sense.
Because the nun is saying, look, you just fucked off and left us here. No wonder everyone hates you. And Raffi said that as well. And it seems like this tour that Picard's having seems to mainly be people going,
anger vibes.
You fucked off and left us, and now we hate you. And him going, oh, I'm so old.
He's like, oh, why do they dislike me, Raffi?
And Zeno is very much, the Kratman are very much saying, look, please take Elrond with you. He's so hot, but we can't keep him because of his Romulan cock and balls. This is ladies only. And Picard is then trying to talk him into helping him and mentions his bad knees because he's old.
Yeah.
Saying, look, do I have to beg your knees? I hope not, I'm old.
My knees don't work like they used to. That was some charming dialogue, I guess.
And sort of confesses to Elrond his sins. And Elrond responds just sort of like, he's like, nah, miss me with that. And then just bounces.
he responds suddenly really Australian. No way, I'm not going to do that, you cheeky transwater.
Like, you drongo.
So Australian,
accent,
really.
I love samurai Australian elf man. He is my favourite so far.
You bloody dingo.
You left me for dead on this Arabic planet.
Yeah. Picard left him, so he's leaving Picard.
Yep.
Picard is bummed. And he messages the ship. He's,
thoroughly cucked.
He's like, transport me out of here. I'm embarrassed. but he can't leave for 7 minutes because that's when the next transit window opens. Again, really good to have this on Earth. So Picard has 7 minutes to kill, which he uses to try to instill social change in a Rosa Parks-esque manner by ripping the Romulans only sign off the cafe.
He stands on it. He stands on the sign afterwards as well. It's so funny.
Yeah, he walks on it. It is the equivalent of sitting in the back of the bus.
Yeah. And the big
sitting in the back of the bus.
big Romulan that tapped his titty earlier stands up, and we see that he's with some more goons who all have swords.
Everyone's got swords.
Yeah, this whole scene really went from impulse to warp quickly. It was it escalated. It was all of a sudden everyone has a sword. That was a bit odd. Everyone's got a fucking sword on this planet. It was very strange. And then we were like, holy shit, they're going to fucking duel. There's a duel. And then the guy spins through the air like it's House of Flying Daggers and lops a fella's head off.
Because it begins with the big Romulans going, you may not recognise me.
Senator.
I was a senator in the Star Empire before it all went wrong. I was there when you gave your speech about how the Federation and the Starfleet are here to help, and then you didn't help at all, and I'm really cross now. And Picard does a kind of, post-Brexit, we left you behind, you won't be forgotten again speech to the North, Romulans.
I did my best.
We did our best, but we failed you. We forgot you. We left you behind. But the Senator is not having it. He's like, no, right. Picard's standing there like a lemon while the Senator Swordsman does some acting.
He's trying to get Romulexit done.
Yeah. And plants this idea that a lot of Romulans have decided that the failed evacuation was a deliberate act by the Federation to sort of lull the Romulans into not helping themselves, and then leaving them divided and scattered when they're at their weakest.
Yeah, what did you think of that? Because I thought it was kind of reasonable, but it seems weird that no one cleared that up.
Well, the thing is, if they're extremists or Romulan rebirth movement, then the Federation can go, oh, we didn't mean it, and you just go, yes, you did.
Yeah, true.
And also, the Federation did abandon them.
No, I know, yeah.
They're right.
I mean, it's just weird that there was no overtures of. I guess the Federation, like I said, the Federation's a lot more insular now than I guess it ever was. So.
And they stopped giving a shit. So I guess you could argue that even if the Federation did refute it, they don't really want to. They're not really interested.
No, true.
Then Senator Swordsman makes Picard fence him for a bit. He demands glorious combat, which is very Klingon. though Picard's not interested. He throws his swords down. He's like, I'm not going to fight you. And then Elrond suddenly appears, which this is where it really kicks off.
Yeah.
Sort of spins through the air, feet first, and then the Romulan head just kind of slides off, which was very my sharpest katana, the steel of 1,000 blades.
It really was super edgelord.
green blood on the sword.
Me and Aaron,
even
though the scene was really, really cheesy, me and Aaron were literally cheering. We're like, something's happening! Yeah.
Not only did someone die, someone got decapitated, and in full view, it wasn't even like a. Yeah, that was mad. It was so unexpected.
Yeah.
Like when he threw the sword down, I was like, "Oh, it's going to be a pacifism thing," and then I was like, "Oh no, it's an ultra-violence thing."
It was a little bit like something that would be written in a Star Trek fan fiction rather than an actual episode of Star Trek.
Like a novelization, like when you.
Yeah.
It was mad. Yeah.
And then he span through the air and dropped off his head.
And then Picard lectures the kid. He's like, if you're going to bind your sword to my quest, then you're going to kill who I tell you to kill when I tell you to kill them.
It's very Terminator 2, John Connor to the Terminator. Saying, look, lads, you can't just murder who you want to. But I want to. And
Elrond does think he can seemingly murder whoever he wants to.
Yeah. And they've been beamed back up to the ship, which is Picard gives him the bollocking.
Yeah. Cheers him out for being a naughty boy.
And this is where Picard drops that this particular order only bind themselves to lost causes. And Elrond has determined that their cause is lost, which does seem like a way for your order to all die.
Yep. And what the hell is that as as well as like a promise that, is a prison. Like this, no wonder this order isn't deemed to be a threat by the Tal Shiar because they live by insane creeds.
I mean, you could argue it's a sense of extreme arrogance that they're like, well, you're not going to win without us.
Oh, okay.
The sword lads.
The only thing it made me think of is maybe sort of like some of the Crusader Knight orders where it's like we help the most wretched and poor. Or I was like, maybe that's what they're going for, but the way it was worded, it was just like, all right.
I do feel like it's probably much more effective and pretty much easier as well to just train how to fire a phaser than it is to learn how to spin through the air with a samurai sword.
I mean, I think Klingons have always used weapons and swords and stuff. I suppose if you're a warrior order of monks that just knows how to shoot really well aren't quite as impressive.
Yeah, I can't imagine there being a unit of like Klingon warriors that only use bat'leths though. Like they're still going to fly into combat in a massive, great big spaceship and shoot things before they start stabbing things.
I guess they're not monastic though, are they? I guess that's the difference.
Yeah, I suppose also. I mean, apart from the Type 1 phasers at the start of TNG, which were like those little tiny key fobs, most rifles are quite big. So I suppose in a spaceship in a sort of space arena, when you're boarding, you're quite narrow corridors. Perhaps a sword is more effective than trying to get your disruptor rifle round. And you can't pull a trigger if your hand's been cut off. The enemy cannot press the button.
I feel like we're slowly going to devolve into the argument of is the gun mightier than the sword?
I mean, the
vice versa.
answer is yes. Just shoot them.
I mean,
but,
yeah.
I do want to see Elnor fight. F8 with his mining laser and see how well that goes for him.
I mean, Romulan even says it. Just before they beam up off Vashti, he says, "Your sword is no match for my disruptor," and everyone sort of goes, "Oh fuck!"
Oh shit!
He's right. He's right. And they get beamed up. Just
Logic.
in time. I feel like we're definitely going to see Elnor samurai swords and Borg drones.
Yep.
There's going to be.
That's going to be it, because they're technically not people, kind of, so he's going to be able to kill them in swathes while affecting their rating.
Raffi's going to be bapping out the lasers as they go, JL, they've adapted, and Elnor's going to be like, adapt to this, and behead.
Yeah, it's going to be assimilate this all over again.
Adapt to this, nerds, and behead 8 Borg drones. Speaking of the Borg, we do return to the Borg cube for the last time in the episode. Zarek is having...
sexy rat.
Yeah. Zarek's having a little nappy, and he gets woken up by Lieutenant Rat, in a very rude outfit.
Leather. She's a skin-tight leather outfit, thigh-high boots, and stockings.
She's there being...
Not even porn is that lewd these days.
She's there being sexy and kind of incesty.
Very incesty.
Yeah. Aaron had to remind me that they're brother and sister, because I was like, is this happening?
She does reach for his cock at one point. Saying... Is your android anatomically correct? It's like, you don't grab his cock. You know he is. He's normal.
Wait, maybe not an android.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It sort of needles him about shagging a robot.
Yeah, again, I liked what he was going for because it's it's that archetype from spy films where it's like don't fall in love with your mark. But it was again, both his relationship with the android is very weird, and then that scene was so weird.
Yeah.
That it
At least they I mean, at least it did explain why they haven't just killed her.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely.
that they
And Ruben said that he was like, "Oh man, exposition as to what the plot is, or their plot is, rather than the plot."
So finally they reveal the major plot point of the motive behind all these people is that they're trying to find out where Soshi came from, so that they can exterminate all of the synths that are the same as Soshi and Daj, which is a key thing and never really been explained before. So now we know that's what they're after. They're trying to find the source of the new fancy androids and destroy them all.
Well, I mean, or if there is a source, I suppose. Because they do seem to be very aware that they seem to know everything about Soji. They know when she was sent, all that. It's just they need to know where she came from.
Yeah.
Which I guess then does explain why the Tal Shiar operatives in the first episode didn't just cap Daj immediately. They did try and black bag her and do some brain scanning stuff.
I'm calling it now. It's going to be some temporal anomaly bullshit where they come from the future.
Again? Oh, the androids come from the future, not the Romulans.
Yeah, not the Romulans. Sorry, no, the Daj and Soji are going to be from the future or something.
I thought they were getting very specific that Maddox has been building them from Data's brain juice or whatever.
The over-reliance. I mean, is the actor who played Maddox going to show up in this show? It seems
still alive.
I don't know. It's just weird to me, like how much airtime Maddox gets in this.
Googling.
Yeah, find out if he's alive.
Played by Brian Brophy. Brian Brophy is alive.
Yeah, alive.
He is 60.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's good.
Bit young for a Starfleet captain, but they can still bring him back.
Probably, yeah.
So Narek is getting strangled by Lieutenant Rat for some reason. Just kind of threaten him. And, the deadline is given. If Narek doesn't get answers in a week, then Lieutenant Rat is just going to torture the information out of Soji. I do like the sort of overly dramatic evil Romulans.
She's extra overly dramatic, isn't she? She's like you were saying before. She's the camp evil kind of Romulan.
Yeah,
she's really sexy for no real reason.
Lieutenant Rat is almost mirror universe evil.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron pointed out as well. It's like she's still going to be infiltrating the Starfleet intelligence, right? So is she just constantly transporting between the cube and Starfleet intelligence to just nag her brother and slightly incestuously molest him.
Yep. It's only been like a day or two. Maybe she's just on leave. Just took a week off.
Oh, I see. What? So she's just like they see each other in the canteen. She sort of like makes the cutthroat motion at him, and then like harasses him in the bedroom,
beat him up in the toilet somewhere. Something back at school.
Giving him a swirly, just like fuck you.
Commodore O's like, Lieutenant Rat, where are you going for your holidays? She's like, I'm going to go and see family, and he's like, well, have a good time. Send me a hologram.
A hologram of Risen the Rat giving Narek a wet willy aboard the cube.
It's like,
spitting little balls of paper through a straw at him.
Accidentally
through the end of a biro like you used to do at school.
Accidentally tags a photo of herself at the ball cube. She's like, shit, and deletes it.
Geotag.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Actually, at Riser, having a good time. The final.
Man, do you think we're ever going to see more of Riser?
Almost certainly not, and that's a real shame.
I know. I would love to see more of Rise of the Pleasure Planet.
In my head canon, Worf destroyed it. After Dax died, he's just like, enough.
Exactly. No more pleasure after Dax is dead.
You're all weak. I feel like Riser would be far more debauched in this version, where the Federation is sort of almost falling apart and everyone hates each other. It's like, welcome to Sex Planet.
Yeah, exactly. It would go from being like a holiday resort in Cyprus to being like an orgy planet, wouldn't it?
I mean, it was already an orgy planet. They had those dolls you carried around that was just like a big flag saying "fuck me."
Give me a good rogering.
Yeah, and it's heavily implied in the episode they go to in Deep Space Nine that Lita and Bashir are there to have like a threesome before they break up.
It's very strange, isn't it?
But the final scene in this episode is we're back on the little ship. It needs a name. Have they named it? I just miss it somehow.
Me and Ruben said that it wasn't given a name last episode, and I don't remember it being given a name this episode. Again, more than willing to be called out for this. I mean, what do you call it? Sheer fucking hubris? I think the SFH is fine.
Yeah.
Like, it must have a name.
Oh, well, I'll Google it 1 second.
Or maybe it's just like something like, this is a boring...
No, because even, the most
designation,
most basics of ships. Oh, was it ever determined that he was actually called Cristobal Rios? Is that a thing?
If they called him Chris Rios, but I don't know if they've said Cristobal.
Oh!
No,
sorry.
No?
Sorry, I thought we'd already had it called, but no, that it listed like the ships he's worked on, but it was the Ibn Majid, which is obviously his previous one.
The heavy
one,
cruiser,
yeah.
the one that got redacted.
Yeah.
So
Which is a great name, yeah. I wish the Ibn Majid was the name of this one, because that's actually a really interesting name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we're back on the nameless ship.
Mm-hmm.
And now the antique bird of prey is zip-zapping its disruptors at them, while the planet security net has also decided to start zip-zapping its disruptors at them. In a space combat scene that didn't feel like Star Trek in a good way.
Yeah, it was actually quite cool.
Yeah.
And, he's got that like augmented reality UI that he uses
on
to
his
navigate
head is
and
so
stuff.
cool. I love it when he's moving his head around, and that felt like really good innovation.
Yeah.
And he's doing it all while he's smoking a cigar like Apocalypse Now.
The old ship, I guess, the bird of prey, actually looks pretty decent. It's a 60s design that somehow they've updated enough that it looks like it could really be a spaceship that's fighting at the same time. Forward racing disruptors. There's a lot of zipping around because they're in a little ship and it's doing loop-to-loops. It's far more dynamic than a lot of Star Trek scenes without being sort of overwhelming like some of the Discovery stuff was, particularly towards the end of season 2.
It also just makes sense in context. Like you said, it's a smaller ship. It's not going to be like the Enterprise sort of, like I said, thousands of people flagship sort of combat. This is where my good JL comes in, because Raffi has to ask in a crowded sort of, deck room during combat a question to Picard, and she calls him JL, which is why it went unnoticed by Ruben, because it wasn't a blindingly obvious midway through a conversation with just Picard, JL.
Yeah, it didn't stand out because it was sensible.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Also, sorry, just in terms of the ship, it is called La Sirena, which is Spanish for the siren or the mermaid. And it even has its own logo, which has never come up, and I will send that to you guys in a bit.
So the bug fight's happening, and rather than Raffi firing the weapons, which seemed like the natural choice, another comedy hologram is summoned.
Mexican hologram, Arriba!
An alcoholic Mexican that fires the guns.
The emergency weapons hologram?
Yep.
Emergency shooting hologram? Who knows? And sort of fires a bit, and then just kind of gives up. Which seems like a weird thing to program into emergency weapons hologram.
Yeah, I feel like you would want it to have
despair,
complete semblance and sobriety at all times, right? If it's literally just the equivalent of like an AI.
I thought it was going to be said that he was malfunctioning and it was just a weird like aberrance, but no, if that's working as intended, then there's a problem in the code.
Yeah.
And like
one day Chris Rios just got bored and programmed him to be a pisshead, and it was like, I'll leave that in. That won't ever cause any problems whatsoever.
And the hologram's going, "You're getting too close to the planet, idiot." It's just sort of nagging at him.
Yeah.
The ship is at this whole time being flung about space to not get shot. And the people inside are sort of rocking back and forth and side to side, which is like, is that an inertial dampener failing thing? Because that's never happened before. Like,
that's what I was thinking. It's like, surely if you've got artificial gravity, then the artificial gravity would just keep you to the floor. Otherwise, every time you went to warp, you would just be smashed into the back of the ship and atomized immediately, right?
Because they've got inertial dampeners, but maybe it's just they don't work that well in those. Because they say like G's, so maybe they don't work in those maneuvers. Really wish they'd had seatbelts, but again, if they did, really breaking the Star Trek tradition.
Saying that, they're like, can you imagine how much less impactful it would have been if like Uhura sits in her little chair rather than being flung across the bridge? She's like clicking her seatbelt on. Safety first, boys. Click.
I thought they did have seatbelts in more of the movies.
Oh, really?
And maybe in Beyond.
It makes perfect sense, right?
As well, yeah, but no other sort of Prime universe.
I feel like some of the smaller crafts have had seatbelts on before, which would make sense.
But how many times do you get flung out of your seat by a banger or a spark explosion? It's like a harness would have really, really helped there.
They should all be connected to the ceilings on little harnesses. You just dangle around.
they're fighting in not a bad spaceship combat scene, and then a smaller ship appears out of nowhere and starts helping out. They zap one of the bird of prey's sort of wing bits off, and it's still firing, catches the little ship, and the little ship starts to break up. And there's a bit of discussion, we shouldn't beam them over, security risk, to which everyone responds as, fuck you, we're beaming them over anyway. Beams them over, and it's not a him, it's a her, it's a lady, it's 7 of 9.
7 of 9!
Oh my god!
And she quips,
Whoa.
and she faints. And that's it.
Yeah.
Episode over.
I really liked how 7 of 9's ship, when it was destroyed, obviously she beams back aboard the USS Salty Cuck, or whatever it was, and her ship hits the force field and just gets disintegrated. I thought that was really cool. I thought that's such much more of an interesting space combat scene. And like you said, maybe not very Star Trek-y, but very cool.
Yeah. I know how it gets hit and you see the bits blow off it a bit, and then as it slams into the force field. Which felt very Star Warsy.
It reminded me of Scarif, of the Rogue One Scarif scene with the planetary defense shield, where the X-wings try and clear it, and one of them doesn't and smashes straight into it.
It's like, pull up, I can make it, and just nose piles.
Which was a great scene, but insane.
I can do it. I can fly through it.
You demonstrably can't.
Demonstrably can't. Don't do it.
Red Leader, this computer says it's literally impossible. Don't worry, I can do it, Smash.
Never tell me the odds. Explosion.
He died as he wanted, not knowing the odds.
Yeah,
so,
like a complete fool.
Yeah, did you like the episode?
I was going to say, I really feel like it's going in the right direction, and it finally feels like it's kicking up a notch, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I didn't dislike the previous 3 episodes, but I was getting quite antsy to get it on, get moving a bit.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, we've had a good time on Earth. It needed to do something, and it did do something. And I mean, there's still obviously imperfections, but like I said, I think it was a really good move in the right direction. It felt good. It didn't feel cheesy like that first combat fight scene. Even the samurai sword stuff was still fun and elicited a positive reaction from me, which is good.
Yeah, I came round to the whole, swords and sorcery quest stuff, because Picard says the word quest about 5 times in this.
He does, quest and binding swords and stuff. I said this, when I said Ruben, I was like, are we in Rivendell? It's actually ridiculous. But in a good way, almost. I like binding swords to quest. It's fun.
Yeah, it's felt quite sort of Lord of the Ringsy almost.
Yeah.
He's going to Elrond. Because it doesn't help that Romulans look like elves.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It was elves, and elves had swords, but then also some of them had sort of a Mad Max vibe about them.
I did like the Mad Max Romulans. I thought their outfits are really cool and really sort of sold sort of space corsairs.
Yeah. No, it reminded me. It was sort of like a bit of a Fallout post-apocalypse vibe. It was really. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was all it felt fresh, and it didn't feel derivative because it was clearly such a different thing, and it was also just interesting and acceptable enough that I was on board, which is great, which is more than it has been in some of the earlier episodes. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't really like the new ship design. I think it would be fine in the Expanse, as I said previously, or something like that. But
is it the space? I feel like there's a lot of
I can't work
space
out, and the dimensions and stuff. I'm having trouble because I know Star Trek's always had a weird thing with ship dimensions, but it feels weird. It feels like the ship is a large inner space, but also isn't that big.
Yeah, it feels
a bit hard to see.
And the large inner space seems to mainly be a big hallway, a transporter array, and then inexplicably a massive holodeck. Well, not a massive one, but a holodeck. It could be nice to have a sort of a sense of where everyone was on the ship.
Yeah, I guess if you compare it to the famous ships, let's say Millennium Falcon's a good example, right? They constantly look like they're cramped in a tiny space, and they're crawling through little. There's not a lot of there's one area which is where they play chess and that, but even the cockpit, it's a really narrow corridor, and they're ducking under stuff.
Yeah, and you see them run down a corridor to get to the turret or whatever, and you sort of get a rough sense of where this all lives.
Yeah, I mean,
this is just like a big room.
If you look at La Sirena from the outside, it doesn't. It looks like it should be more Millennium Falcon size, but then there's not much for scale against it. Like the picture I've got is against a planet, and that's not too useful.
No, and it looks very small against the bird of prey, but then again, that ship could be massive. I think that ship was rough. I don't know how big they were. Were they roughly the same size as the original Enterprise and stuff? And that was a big ship.
They're able to take the Enterprise, aren't they, most of the time? So I would assume so, but they can't be as many crew members on a bird of prey, presumably.
That said, I think the space combat was much better. It felt good. I think there is one benefit to having advances in CGI is that now you can have bits of ships being shorn off and spiraling out and exploding and it looking pretty good and making sense. It's no longer just two models move towards each other on a black screen, bash each other with beams for a bit, and then one pops.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see somebody get sucked into space. That's always what I really dig.
Isn't it blown out into space, technically?
I guess so.
As I think Data says.
Yeah,
someone will get spaced. People have been spaced before. It'd be a shame if they didn't now. I am waiting for the Borg. I know the Borg always suffer from overuse, but I need the Borg in my life.
I'm still really enjoying all the Romulan stuff. I agree, some of it's kind of dumb. I quite like the monastic order, but they are like straining the boundaries of what I'm willing to believe quite significantly.
Yeah.
But I think now that they're in it, and they're probably not going to come up again except with Elnor, then I think it will be fun and fine. And again, I'm looking forward to, again, this was the first episode where I started to glimpse what they might actually be trying to do with hipster Romulan, and if they develop him competently from here on in, then he might actually turn into a moderately nuanced character, which would be great, because at the moment it's their scenes that really like drag everything down a bit.
Yeah, and it's nice that there are jokes in it again.
Yeah. People are having fun.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference for me. Is that the previous episodes, the dialogue, a lot of it's been very forced, whereas in this, even the ones that were more jovial felt a little bit more real. Like, Picard makes a little funny face because they won't let him through the force field, that kind of stuff. It feels like a conversation you could actually see them having, rather than like, here are the lines, read the lines.
Yeah, even the book stuff with Kim Pine and Chris Rios was just like I felt, even like, I know you didn't like the conversation, Ruben, but I was like, oh, this is the sort of conversation that two strangers stuck together might have, and that's more than it's been before.
Still no dog.
Yeah, what the hell?
Beam number one. Him scampering around the ship, and then immediately in that combat scene, he just see him in the back going, "Roo! Roo!" as he gets slammed.
Maybe they'll
from
have
bulkhead to
an
bulkhead.
ECH, an emergency companionship hologram, and it'll just be a little cute dog, a
Oh.
little corgi that runs around the ship.
Emergency dog hologram, the EDH. Because then they could have number one on the ship, and then they'll get hit by something, and the artificial gravity will go off, and then he'll float past in the background.
That'd be good. The ship could get taken over,
if the first person who gets blasted into space is the dog, I will be heartbroken.
No, I don't want that to happen.
Jesus Christ.
I've just had a flash forward into the inevitability of the dog being in the show, but then dying.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to them showing a Federation ship if they do. I think it'd be nice to see, because I liked in Discovery the update of the Enterprise's bridge, and I think it'd be interesting to see what they would update a TNG era ship design to look like.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see. I hope there's more ships. Like I said, I'm excited for the Borg Cube to get underway. I think there feels like a lot more possibilities for where this show can go now, because they're actually in space. It doesn't just feel like the somewhat old man being told to shut up show, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
He's now doing that on a spaceship.
Yeah, and as mentioned, I'm still waiting for Say Hello to Assimilation.
Oh, definitely.
But I'm sure they'll have an assimilation at some point.
I reckon that's going to be sort of, like the episode 7, 8 ramp up will be them getting the assimilation start to happen.
At the end of 7 will be the badges all going green.
Also, like, just some predictions to close off. When the fuck do you think Frakes is showing up now?
Yeah, it's been a few episodes.
Maybe he'll be like a holographic communication into the holodeck on the Sirena.
What, a pond? No, that would be funny as hell.
It'll be like, generate communications bench Picard B.
Well, did you see in the next time on Picard bit right at the end, Picard is wearing a beret and an eye patch. It looks like holodeck shenanigans again. It looks one step away from him using the Tommy gun to blow a Borg away.
Are we going to get a holodeck episode in a season of 10 episodes?
Yeah, can you imagine?
Just like halfway through, due to a holodeck accident, the USS, whatever it is, the Sirena has accidentally summoned Stalin.
Moriarty's
back.
Oh no, it's made a holodeck number 1, the dog, and he's running around space. He's gone rogue.
Do you get a next?
And they just befriend him instead.
Do you get a next one on Picard on Amazon Prime, or is it just on the CBS stuff you've got?
No, it's just on Ruben's CBS All Access stuff.
Because I never see it, and I feel like I'm missing something.
And while we're on the subject of CBS All Access, by the way, they can burn and die. Their platform has adverts on a play. Did I mention
You've
this
already,
before?
yeah, last week, unfortunately.
I ranted in the last episode. I'll rant again, damn it. Adverts and a paid subscription. Ah!
Speaking of paid subscription, a
Kabla.
subscription you don't need to pay to is Check for Traps. Hey! I was going to say, anyone got anything else to talk about? Are we good?
I think that's that.
No, I think I'm good.
Excellent.
Well, thanks for joining me.
And
And
me.
me.
We did it at the same time.
Perfect. Cool. See you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Stay space. I can think of anything.
Say space.
Stay space.
Sorry, coronavirus. Bye.